So ever since I was a little kid, I've always loved baseball. It was always my favorite sport growing up, and I always felt like I had a real talent for it. It was one of the only things in my life that I felt like really came natural to me, and I didn't really have to work hard for. It always helped me to de-stress, whether I was, playing in a game with my teammates or just playing in the backyard by myself. Um, Growing up, I was a pitcher only, which meant I spent a lot of time throwing the ball, whether it was in a game or just with my brother in the backyard trying to work on my stuff. Um, I remember I played and had a really good time up until about middle school when I started feeling a slight pain in my elbow when I'd throw. And I mean, at the time, I just decided to push through it like it was nothing. I thought it was a normal thing. And that ended up developing into a major pain in my arm to the point where I couldn't throw, couldn't straighten my arm out without kind of jumping in pain. It felt like a twinge every time I did something. So at that point, I talked to my mom and we decided to go get an MRI on it to see what was going on. So that's kind of the backstory on how I ended up at the doctor's office one day in 2018. I remember that day really well. I remember sitting there feeling super nervous. I just had a lot of things, fears running through my head. I remember up until that point, my life had kind of revolved around playing baseball. I'd always thought I would go to college and play, and then, my dream was eventually to go play in the MLB and play professionally. Um, I had hope in my mind that it would turn out to be a major or minor injury, but also, the doubt remained and the fear remained that they might tell me I could never play again, and so I just had that in the back of my mind that day. But I remember sitting there, kind of feeling my anxiety pressing down on me, and finally, it felt like forever. But the nurse came, said my name, and I started following her down the hallway to the MRI room. I tried to act calm, but I felt a little nervous because I'd never had an MRI done before. But nonetheless, I tried to remain calm and act like I'd been there before. So, anyways, I got to the room and saw the machine. Um, got inside of it, and I remember feeling really claustrophobic while I sat there. And they made me put earplugs in so the sound wouldn't be too bad. But it was just a weird experience, and I remember it felt like a lifetime laying in there. Um, but finally, it felt like forever, but it got done, and I got to go home, and I felt relieved that at least I had that part of it over. Um, Anyways, I returned to the office in a few days to hear my results. I remember the doctor coming out and kind of having a blank stare on his face and kind of just looking bored to be there. Um, but I remember he came out and told me that I had osteochondritis dissecans, which was basically a bone fragment that had gotten lodged in my growth plate and it was cutting off blood flow and causing pain. And he told me the only remedy for that was to kind of just give it time and that it may or may not heal. But the main point of what he told me was that I probably wouldn't ever be able to pitch again like I had been. And I just remember hearing that news and just feeling devastated at the time. Um, Up to that point, in my recent memory, that had been the only goal and that had been my dream that I'd been working towards. And I'd felt like I had a really good shot at it and I'd felt really talented at it. And it kind of just felt like something was being taken away from me and my world was just abruptly changing. Um, and so at the time, I was just absolutely devastated. Um, I still tried to throw, tried to let it heal, push through it, but it never ended up feeling any better. Um, and then eventually I had to just, kind of get on and learn to deal with it. And that was almost 10 years ago now. And just looking back on it, it just feels kind of silly, the whole situation. Since that time, I've been able to pursue other hobbies and other passions. I've found other sports that I like to play and other things I like to do. And just overall, the whole story kind of just reminds me that sometimes challenges in life they can feel so overwhelming and so just so large that we can't see past them. And then sometimes it just takes time to step back and really see the big picture and see God's plan that He's laid out for us. And that's all it takes to get over a challenge in life.